In his past life, Zhang Ping was a rescue worker who died in an accident. After he died, he woke up and was reborn into that fantasy world of awakeners and mutated beasts, and in that life, he is an awakener too. He had a contract gem, which consumes stamina and mental energy to materialize, and once the target willingly consumes it, their life, soul, and consciousness will be completely bound to the summoner's will. It should be an awesome power, but there is one tiny flaw. Suddenly, Su Jingyao inquired about what he was doing. Zhang Ping replied that it was nothing much and wondered if she wanted some candy. She retorted that he should get lost because no one would want to be controlled by him, a creep. He clarified that he was just kidding. The catch of his power is that the target must be fully informed and willing to form a contract with him, and if someone doesn't wish to, nothing will happen even if they consume the gem. The original owner of that body was so frustrated by that power that he almost died of anger, and it was a good thing that he was already there because his old life taught him a thing or two about dealing with stress. Su Jingyao encouraged him not to give up so easily because the world is a big place and there is surely someone out there who will let him control them. But he countered that it was easy for her to say because besides him, no one would ever agree to that. He realized about him and wondered why he didn't consider that before. She probed about what he was doing. A powerful aura surged out of his body. That aura quickly dissipated. She queried if he was okay, and he assured her that he was fine. She warned him not to scare her like that again. A few moments later, Su Jingyao remarked that it was getting late, so she was heading back to the dorms. She had to report to the city guard the next morning, so he didn't have to wait for her, and he wondered if she was really going through with it. She explained that she learned everything they could teach her there, so it was time for some actual combat experience to improve herself further, and he concluded that it made sense because joining the city guard to protect their homeland has always been her dream, and she finally has the chance. She reassured him not to be upset because once he is strong enough, maybe they will even get to work together someday. Zhang Ping's assigned school vocation was farmer because of his useless ability, so he laughed and guessed that it was off to the farm for him. They probably won't see each other much after that, and it still kinda sucks saying goodbye like that even if Su Jingyao is technically the original body's childhood crush. He really wanted to give her a hug. His body moved and hugged her. He was surprised that his body moved on its own. Su Jingyao stuttered as she mumbled she had to go, and he acknowledged that she was right. She should take care. Su Jingyao was blushing as she looked back. She added that he should take care too. He smiled as he waved her goodbye. Speaking of which, he wondered if his body just hugged her on its own and if he just ordered himself subconsciously to hug her. If that was a coincidence, he has to figure out how much control he really has. He instructed himself to take off. He did the Iron Mountain stance. He also executed a mid-air flip, Xiao Liang. Time passed, and he was beat. He concluded that he could definitely make his body do pretty much anything as long as it was within the realm of humanly possible, so no flying and no transforming into another species. But the crazy part is he could even copy moves he has never physically practiced before based on his memory, so theoretically, if he could imagine it and he had the physical strength to pull it off, he could master any martial art, any fighting style. All he has to do is boost his physical abilities, and he will become stronger, but there is one more thing he needs to test. The next day, he just slowly regained his consciousness. He pondered where he was and if it was the cafeteria. His legs were killing him. He remembered that before he went to sleep, he ordered himself to go for a morning run, so he speculated if his body followed those orders even while he was unconscious. It was great as it worked, and his body could follow commands even when his brain was unconscious. It was good because nobody was paying attention to him while one of the students exclaimed that they should look because it was their classmate Luo Shiyu, which made the others excited. They proclaimed that it was the goddess Luo Shiyu and greeted her good morning, which made Zhang Ping speculate if it was the campus queen and if she was up that early too. Suddenly, he heard crunching noises and wondered what that sound was. He cursed as he questioned what that thing was. He saw a huge beast devouring the students around him. He speculated if they could not see that creature. It was definitely not Luo Shiyu. Luo Shiyu noted that Zhang Ping looked a little pale. Luo Shiyu called Zhang Ping and observed that he looked a little pale. She inquired if he was feeling alright, and he concluded that he should get a grip and calm down. He assured her that he was fine and he just had a nightmare last night and didn't sleep well. Anyway, class was starting soon, so he had to go. Luo Shiyu remarked that it was a stench of fear and wondered if it was just her. On the other hand, Zhang Ping contemplated why there was a mutated beast in their school, if no one else had noticed them, and if he was hallucinating. He had to tell a teacher about it. He was alarmed when he saw what the teacher was doing. The teacher was also a mutated beast and was devouring a student. He quickly ran away. A few moments later, he screamed on the rooftop. He declared that something was not right at all, and as he speculated if that place was a living hell, he cursed. Come to think of it, he started seeing those things after he ate the contract gem. Whatever is going on, he has to snap out of it. He was surprised when a powerful aura surged through him just like before. A system suddenly appeared and stated that analyzing was in progress, which surprised him. The analysis was completed and playback was initiated. A few moments later, Zhang Ping wondered if he just awakened some kind of analysis ability. The system analyzed him, and as he saw his status panel, he confirmed that it was real. He pondered if it had levels and what the LVL1 effect activated thing was all about. He had the skills Absolute Command, Absolute Obedience, and Basic Analysis. Zhang Ping demanded where the heck that came from and if eating that second gem did that. A few moments later, in class, Zhang Ping broke things down. First, he became his own summoner and summon. Second, the only one in control of him is him, and no outside influence could mess with his body or mind, which meant that third, illusions don't work on him anymore, which is why he could see through those mutated beasts' disguises. Fourth, they were all celestial foxes, high-level ones at that, and he is at level 1. He is no match for them. And fifth, that cognitive distortion thing is straight up a broken ability, and a celestial fox could devour someone right in front of you, and you would think you were watching a couple of students chatting, which is why no one else could see them. If it was a mind control ability, Su Jingyao's powers are mental too, as she is one of the psychic class, so maybe she could help. After school, Zhang Ping walked on the streets to go and visit Su Jingyao. He couldn't believe it, that the celestial foxes were outside the school too. He walked past a couple happily walking together. He questioned how many of them were there. A few moments later, he arrived at the city guard headquarters. He walked up to the receptionist. She greeted him and queried how she could help him. He mentioned that he was there to see someone named Su Jingyao and she should have enlisted that day. She replied, of course, and requested one moment. A few moments later, reflecting about the celestial foxes in the city guard and if even high-level awakeners couldn't see through their illusions. Suddenly, Su Jingyao called him and wondered what he was doing there. He explained that he just wanted to make sure she was settling in okay, as he was just worried about her. She replied that she was alright, introduced him to her teammates, and mentioned that everyone has been great to her. He responded that it was great if that was the case. She vowed that she is going to get stronger, strong enough to hunt down the beasts that killed her parents, and he agreed that she was right. She mentioned that they were actually short on members at the moment and suggested that she put in a good word for him with the city guard. But he replied that he was not cut out for that as his power is useless, so he is better off on a farm somewhere. She replied that it was a shame, and he concluded that he was glad to see that she was doing okay, so he wouldn't bother her further. His smile faded. He bit his lip. He considered that he would see Su Jingyao around. He questioned if they were kidding him, if the city guard wasn't supposed to be the strongest in Pearl City, and how they all fell. Su Jingyao only joined that day, and yet that happened. He stopped walking. The celestial foxes have infiltrated not just the school but the entire city as well. Everyone in Pearl City is all just cattle, livestock in their twisted game. Zhang Ping has been doing some digging with his analysis ability and concluded that first, most of those celestial foxes are mid to high level. But even the city guard, who had tons of high-level awakeners, couldn't defeat those monsters. Second was that the one that killed Luo Shiyu was on another level, and his gut indicated that if he tries to analyze it, it will know exactly where he is. So that thing was apex level or maybe even king level, and any celestial fox capable of fighting awakeners above its weight class has to be that thing's doing too. Third, unlike most mutated beasts, celestial foxes are smart, really smart, and they are masters of disguise so they could blend right in, but it is all an act. Fourth, their primary targets are usually the powerful ones or high-profile figures. The rest of them were just livestock, the food they are keeping around for later. Taking them head-on is just suicide, but he can't just stand by and watch innocent people die, so he wished he was just stronger. 1 week later, he woke up at 3:54 a.m. He wakes up earlier and earlier these days, and he guesses that is what happens when one pushes their body to the limit. Less sleep is required. He has been training hard those past few days and leveled up once. Aside from the training, he has been trying to create more gems and eat more gems as he was hoping to awaken something new. But since he awakened the analysis ability, all the gems he has created have been colorless, and consuming them has had no effect. But that day, he got a colorful one. It was not exactly appetizing though, so he hoped it would work that time. He was amazed and wondered what that feeling was. It worked, and he has a new ability so he could actually investigate at night. And the contract gem leveled up, so maybe it was tied to his level. If it means that every time he gets a new power he levels up, he is going to be unstoppable. There was no time to waste, so it was training time, and he might as well test out his new ability, so he activated Nightwalker. A few moments later, at the school's field, his vision was better than during the day. Suddenly, he noticed an item on the grass. He wondered if it was a ring. He analyzed it, and it failed 3 times before it became successful. It was an assassination ring, and the system also initiated a playback. He saw the Luo Shiyu imposter and another guy. He must be the ring's owner. but he definitely was seeing Luo Shiyu as a human, so he speculated if that meant that he was her enemy. No, it was impossible. Luo Shiyu was an orphan, and she would never make enemies like that, so there was only one explanation. Apart from him, there are others in Pearl City secretly fighting those monsters. Suddenly, a celestial fox inquired who was there, and he cursed. It stated that the ring was gone, so someone must have been there. But there was no trace of their presence, so it speculated how that was possible, and whoever that was, they are at least a mid-level awakener. It declared that it needed to tell His Highness immediately, which made Zhang Ping realize that it was their game and they left the ring there on purpose. Returning it at that point would be even more suspicious, so he will have to keep it for the time being. At 5:36 a.m., the sun rose up and brightened the sky. Zhang Ping remarked that it was still dark. The Nightwalker ability and the ring must have made him completely invisible, so strength isn't just about one's power. It is about the gear one could get their hands on too. Suddenly, the celestial foxes marched through the hallway. Su Jingyao called Zhang Ping. He responded who it was and who was speaking. She warned that he should hide because they were coming. Luo Shiyu's imposter and a group of celestial foxes were looking for him. At 5:40 a.m., the window to his room was left open. The celestial foxes arrived in his room and caught him sleeping on his bed. Luo Shiyu's imposter wondered if that wasn't him. It declared that he should die. Luo Shiyu's imposter was about to attack Zhang Ping. There was not a flicker of emotion, and if the useless trash was really the one who ran away, he would have jumped up and fought for his life, and it was not sensing the ring either. One of the celestial foxes inquired why it did not just kill Zhang Ping because he jogs every morning but not that day, so something was not right, and it replied that it was not him. He is just food with no value. They shouldn't be wasteful with food, and everyone else concurred yes. A few moments later, Zhang Ping woke up. He let out a sigh of relief and remarked that it was too close after he spit out the ring. He totally forgot he went jogging every morning, and it was a good thing that he ordered himself to sleep and didn't arouse suspicion. He recalled that he imagined that he heard Su Jingyao's voice earlier, and contemplated if it was just his imagination. He pondered why he was being so sentimental and he needed to get stronger, strong enough to avenge her, so for the time being, he will pretend to live normally to avoid arousing suspicion from the celestial foxes. A few moments later, at the cafeteria, one of the students wondered if she heard that the city guard found a body sliced in half near their academy that day. That body belonged to the notorious Black Death Star guy, the top assassin in Pearl City and the one who injured the old city lord. Zhang Ping speculated if it could be the person in white that was sliced in half, while the girl stated that it turned out that the old city lord's injuries never fully healed. He died young, they confirmed. If Luo Shiyu's imposter took out such an assassin that easily, that meant that its strength was even more terrifying than he imagined. But why they were putting the body on display at that time must have been a warning message to anyone working against the celestial foxes. They will definitely increase their vigilance, and he needs to find some equipment to protect himself, so he will check out the blacksmith shops after class. A few moments later, he went to the city center. It seems all the blacksmith shops in the city are controlled by the celestial foxes, and his analysis continued to fail. His analysis skill suddenly became successful. The system notified him that he had 100 successful analysis, so basic analysis has leveled up to intermediate analysis. With intermediate analysis, he could see the opponent's growth potential, and the celestial fox invited that he should come on in and take a look around. He declined no, he was good and thanked it, and resolved that he needed to find a shop that isn't under their thumb. A few moments later, at the Iron Soul blacksmith shop, Liu Beiguo boasted that he got a top-quality sword looking at the craftsmanship and the shine. Looking at him, it must be tough, so if he was willing to buy, he would give him the lowest price even if it pained him. But Liu Taifeng simply probed what that was. If he just mentioned that his daughter was waiting for him to eat, Liu Beiguo called him an old geezer. If he was deaf or something. Suddenly, Zhang Ping grabbed the sword. Liu Beiguo demanded who the punk was while he used his skill, analysis, on the sword. He challenged him for daring to steal his stuff, but the analysis showed that it was a weapon that looks good but is useless, as it has been broken before and was poorly repaired. Zhang Ping warned that he should hold on because the sword will break. But before he could finish his sentence, a loud cracking sound echoed through the room as the sword snapped in half. Liu Beiguo accused that Zhang Ping ruined everything. If he had any idea who he was. He is the direct disciple of Master Ma from the Xingyi Martial Arts Academy. Zhang Ping should prepare himself. He used his skill, fivefold lightning assault. Zhang Ping was surprised when he multiplied and attacked him from all directions, but he easily caught and slapped him across the face. He mocked if that was all, and as Liu Beiguo complained that he was fighting dirty, he used analysis on him. Liu Beiguo insisted that he should get out of there while he still could, and he speculated if that guy was for real. It was his chance to sneak attack. Zhang Ping criticized that he was trying to pull a sneak attack on him and wondered who was fighting dirty at that time. Suddenly, Chu Kang remarked that she just stepped away for 5 minutes, and the place became so lively. If Liu Beiguo was getting out of there on his own or if she needed to show him the door. Liu Beiguo better go check other shops and apologize while running away. Zhang Ping was puzzled when Chu Kang insisted that he should stay. They needed to talk. Zhang Ping inquired what they would talk about. Chu Kang remarked that he is just a damsel, working hard every day to survive. She also has to take care of her uncle, who became distraught after his daughter went missing. And looking at him, his body is good and his personality isn't bad. She proposed that he stay there to become a blacksmith, take care of old man Liu Taifeng, and also look after the store. Of course, food and accommodation are included, and there is also a salary. If Zhang Ping managed to learn forging skills, he could indeed save quite a bit of money on equipment in the future. Moreover, the shop doesn't seem to be under the control of the Celestial Foxes. He is the man who will become the king of blacksmiths. Chu Kang laughed and commented that he was a good kid, as expected from someone she had her eyes on. Zhang Ping should try to survive under her hands first. A few days later, Chu Kang advised that Zhang Ping should use a little more strength. Zhang Ping wondered if it was really okay for them to do such a thing, and she reassured that he shouldn't worry because no one will come in there. It was very good, and it didn't feel too bad. It was their exclusive skill, needing forging technique, and he needed to let the different materials fuse together as if he were kneading dough. He should wait there for a moment, as she will go to the warehouse to get the mold. The fuel is in the bucket by the side, and he should not let the fire die out. Looking at the scarlet serpent scale and coal, he pondered if it was all fuel, and he cursed as the fire was about to die. He should just screw it and just put things in. Lastly, throw it into the stove to continue heating it. He was surprised when the fire intensified and spread through the whole room. A huge explosion occurred. He contemplated if he was dead. His heart devoured the fire around him. He screamed in pain as the fire entered his body. He was stunned as the fire reached his eyes. He was out of breath and wondered why the fire was extinguished. His heart was beating so loudly. He felt so hot, and he used his analysis skill. He was surprised that his growth potential increased again. Taking the previous situation into account, if his guess was right, awakening a new ability will increase his growth potential, and leveling up an acquired ability will use up his growth potential. As long as he continues to awaken new abilities, his growth potential will be limitless, but he recalled that everyone has a limit to their growth potential and speculated if it could be that he is the only one that could awaken multiple abilities. If it was the fire devourer that absorbed the fire earlier. Thinking back, he had already reached LVL 3 that morning and consumed LVL 3 gem, and he questioned why the effect only activated that evening and if it does require some kind of special circumstance or condition. Chu Kang came back and wondered what happened and how the house ended up in such a situation. If he threw the scarlet serpent scale into the stove and clarified that it would cause an explosion, it was her fault for forgetting to tell him. He brought up the damages to the house, but she countered what he was saying and insisted that it was all good if he was fine. She probed how he extinguished the fire because a fire that is burning through the scarlet serpent scale isn't that easy to put out, and he replied that it was a long story. Her attention turned to the material, and as she verified if the fusing of the materials went really well, she explained that such a result requires extreme temperatures to be achieved. He is indeed talented, and the school is really blind because with his current performance, it is more than sufficient to enter the 3 big organizations. He mentioned that everyone has always called the city guard and investigation team the 3 big organizations, so he queried what the 3rd organization was. She cooled off the metal in the water after forging it. She explained that Pearl City is indeed a part of that 3rd organization. However, what the organization is called or what it does, no one knows. She recalled and verified if he wasn't trying to buy equipment previously, and stated that if he didn't mind, he could take the dagger. He responded that it was such a good dagger and wondered if it wasn't expensive. She noted that based on the market rate of the materials, it will cost around $100,000, which was 3 years of his salary. He speculated if someone like him who only has a monthly salary of $3,000 could even keep that, which made her laugh, and she insisted that he should take it as a reward for his improvement. She still has a mission, so she will go first, but she verified if it would really be okay if he doesn't go back to school, and he reassured that she shouldn't worry because he has already completed the graduation procedures in advance. She replied alright, that he should take care of Liu Taifeng because he is a bit unstable at the moment, so he shouldn't let him open for business. Although the blacksmith shop wasn't targeted by the Celestial Foxes because it wasn't open for business, with the huge commotion that occurred earlier, it might attract their attention, and since it was nighttime at the moment, He will use the Nightwalker skill to check the surroundings. A few moments later, a little girl was playing on the swing. It was a level 3 celestial fox, and Zhang Ping reflected that it was his first time seeing a celestial fox with such a low level. Its level is the same as his, and he is also boosted by equipment, so he should be able to win. Although the city guard within the city has completely fallen, the investigation team outside the city shouldn't be affected, so if he hands over the corpse of a celestial fox to them, he might be able to attract the attention of higher management. Suddenly, Liu Shishan challenged if he was planning to attack a kid. He shouldn't move, or else she will kill him.
Liu Shishan remarked that Zhang Ping better not even dream of attacking, and he figured she was way stronger than he was since his Nightwalker ability, and that flashy assassination ring meant nothing against her. She could see right through his tricks. She told him to show up at the orphanage training grounds if he didn't feel like dying. He blinked, realizing she had already vanished. It seemed she wasn't one of those celestial foxes, or else he would have been a corpse by now. He had grown up in that orphanage, wasting his childhood flailing around with his sorry excuse for fighting skills in that tiny park across the street, which he later dubbed the orphanage training grounds. So he wondered if Liu Shishan somehow knew about his past and how else she could have uncovered his secrets. Not just that, she had apparently been watching him this whole time, which explained why she intercepted him right before he acted, so she must have dragged him there on purpose. Out of nowhere, a mutated beast appeared. He muttered whether there was some mutated creature lurking out there in the woods and triggered analysis. It turned out to be an armored venom-tail rat carrying a venom sac capable of injecting a brutal toxin through the bone spurs on its tail. The creature was 2 levels above him, so he needed to stay sharp, retreat slowly, and maybe reconsider heading back. But no, he couldn't. Because if he didn't handle that monster right now, the orphanage kids might stumble into the park tomorrow and get torn apart. It was just a low-tier mutated beast, and with the weapon Cho Chang handed him, he figured he could win. He lunged straight at the creature. In all those web novels he used to binge in his past life, the protagonist always turned into a battle god the second they got powers, which was total nonsense. And while he didn't have that kind of fighting instinct, he could at least command Zhang Ping's summoned beast to fight. He jolted when the mutated beast suddenly spun midair. He hadn't counted on that move, and he snapped into full defense. But the armor was absurdly thick, and the beauty's tear couldn't pierce it, so he had to outthink the monster. He managed to shove the creature back until it crashed onto a rock. It flared its venom sac. The poison pulsed at the tip of its tail. Zhang Ping dodged like a gamer, pulling off frame-perfect moves, except this was his own body on the line. He noticed that the eye was the only unarmored spot, definitely its weak point, but when it curled into a ball to defend, hitting it became a nightmare. So he needed a way to break that stance. He unlocked the basic Fire Devourer skill. His opening command came out as Pearl Fist, Ratbuster style, and he couldn't believe those mind-numbing history lessons about Pearl Fist were finally paying off. That technique focused on overwhelming an opponent through raw force, perfect for crushing tiny, nasty targets. It started with a feint. The little rat should come charging right at him. It was time to crank up the heat, and he tossed out that the mutated beast better not take it personally. The beast shrieked as the flame scorched it. This was his window while it flailed helplessly. He struck directly at the weak point. His blow detonated with raw power. Moments later, he leveled up, realizing real combat boosted growth way faster than any boring training session. Now that he thought about it, the venom-tail rat showing up here was weird. It almost felt planted, since mutated beasts weren't supposed to exist within the city walls except for those celestial foxes. Then he barked out what was going on. He screamed as he plunged into darkness. He hit the unseen ground with a heavy thud. Liu Shishan announced she would give him 5 minutes. He immediately recognized that the voice belonged to the same woman from before. She declared that he should prove he was human. He stared blankly at the command. He was human, and he had no clue how to prove it. Zhang Ping figured that it seemed like Liu Shishan caught on too, sensing the mutated beasts creeping in the city, but she couldn't lock down where they were, which explained why she was testing him, and she probably started getting suspicious when he almost attacked that little celestial fox. He wondered if he could get even a sliver of a clue, and questioned whether that venom-tail rat had been her setup for him. She only mentioned that 4 minutes were left while his analysis kept failing over and over, 20 times straight. When 2 minutes remained, the system pinged that analysis failed 999 times, so intermediate analysis leveled up to advanced analysis, and now he could already see a target's faction allegiance. The analysis finally hit success. She was ridiculously strong. She is level 20, so no wonder she was so tough to analyze, not to mention his Nightwalker ability, and the assassination ring did nothing to her either. He had never once heard of the Purge Squad and wondered if that could be the third group besides the City Guard and the investigation team. She mentioned there was 1 minute left, and he replied that she should wait. He pointed out that she called that small park training grounds, so she must be from the orphanage like him, but he realized he didn't remember anyone named Liu Shishan, so she must have taken a new name. He questioned if she was Liu Turen. He remembered back when she bragged about her heaven-sundering, earth-shattering, CC invincible fist, so he figured he'd better pay attention. Now, in the moment, he went through the first form, second form, and third form of the heaven-sundering, earth-shattering, CC invincible fist. He doubted if it was really her, but right when he planned to push for more, she mentioned she had a second question. She brought up that, according to Academy records, his contract gem was labeled useless because its activation condition was impossible, so she wanted to know what he did. He explained that 2 weeks ago he swallowed a contract gem, turning himself into his own summoned beast, and he had complete control, making him immune to mutated beast illusions and able to see through their disguises. From what he dug up, tons of celestial foxes were hiding across that city, and he believed an entire clan of them had already infiltrated Pearl City. Their natural power was cognitive distortion, and she pressed if he was serious. He listed that the Wansheng breakfast shop owner, the Jiaoan furniture store owner on Lei Street, those 3 blacksmiths on Longzhu Street, and the little celestial fox she stopped him from attacking were all low-level celestial foxes. She could check them herself. She told him to stay put and that she'd be back soon. She asked if he really trusted that information. Jinbo mentioned the first thing they could verify was that no one had ever come across a celestial fox mutant beast type in that city before. But that cognitive distortion ability had shown up before and matched Zhang Ping's account. He'd already dispatched a team to capture those 2 shopkeepers, and they were expected back soon. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupted behind him. He demanded to know what just happened. One of his squad members reported that the breakfast shop owner went berserk and attacked them right as they were escorting her out of the city. The shop owner lunged straight at Jinbo. He muttered that she was an idiot. He struck her head-on with his fiery punch without hesitation. He sneered and told her not to overestimate herself. The disguise covering the shop owner dissolved away. He stated that it looked like the information was legit. So now they finally knew what they were up against, and they needed to alert the other squad and take out the target immediately. And everyone responded in agreement. Meanwhile, at Pearl Academy, Luo Shiyu's imposter was lounging by her balcony. Suddenly, she sensed what was happening to her pack. Her attendant was startled when she abruptly sat down. She burst out from the balcony. She announced that Yueju was dead, killed outside the city, and another one died on Leia Street. They'd been taken down instantly, their presence wiped, and even her tracking couldn't catch them. She demanded to know who those people were. At the darkroom space, Zhang Ping wondered if she checked, and she confirmed she did, but mentioned they couldn't be fully certain because that sudden knack of his for piercing through celestial fox illusions might be a setup, and maybe those things actually wanted him to see. That's why he'd be their lookout, while she'd guard him in secret for now. And if he stumbled on anything, he should reach out to her at night. He teased if it counted as both protection and surveillance, and went with it, figuring as long as they could take care of those celestial foxes, it was fine. She told him to keep the jade pendant since it came in pairs, one called Cold Jade and its twin Warm Jade. If danger hit, he just needed to flare up the Cold Jade with fire, and her Warm Jade would heat up, letting her know, and she'd rush to him as fast as possible. Still, she urged him to toughen himself up because when it came to safety, trusting others too much was never smart. He mentioned maybe learning martial arts or signing up at a school, but those tuition prices were brutal. She promised to ask the organization for a stipend, telling him to start scouting martial schools, and when he questioned if she was serious, he thanked her anyway. Recently, the Celestial Fox numbers had dropped, so the Purge Squad seemed to be pulling their weight, but she kept her identity under wraps, which made him figure she didn't trust him much. If it weren't for his upgraded analysis skill suddenly showing affiliations, he'd never have guessed she was part of the Purge Squad. He still wondered how they even found out Pearl City got infiltrated, but whatever. If he could help wipe those creatures out, that was enough, and honestly, getting 10,000 Pearl coins up front was generous. Then, out of nowhere, He caught Wang Jiemin offering lessons on the Beast King fist. He urged her to show him, and she agreed without hesitation. That kind of thing wasn't cheap, and no one even knew if it suited him. Wang Jiemin bragged it was absolutely worth the cost since their Beast King fist styles were well known across Pearl City. If he doubted her, she'd gladly prove it. The first 3 forms of Beast King fist were the Ape King style, Giant Crocodile style, and Phoenix Talon style. The Beast King fist moves from footwork to attack form stood leagues above the Pearl fists. It was honestly a solid martial arts set. She explained that the Ape King style had countless variations and no single fixed pattern. But he seemed uneasy watching her. Truth was, she hadn't trained enough, barely scratching the surface of what Beast King fist could pull off. Suddenly, Xiang butted in, mocking who allowed the Beast King crew to toss flyers around, while Zhang Ping checked if she was okay. She apologized quickly, saying she didn't realize she wasn't allowed to distribute them there. Liu Baoguo piped up, calling Beast King fist trash and pushing Zhang Ping to join their Xingyi martial school instead. Zhang Ping reminded him he was the 5-fold lightning kneels guy, and Liu corrected him. It was the 5-fold lightning assault, and he'd be the one putting Zhang Ping on his knees. He added Zhang Ping still owed him for what happened at the blacksmiths, and this looked like payback time, ordering Xiang Da and Xiang to grab him. Wang Jiemin jumped in, declaring she wouldn't let them gang up on Zhang Ping. They roared, clothes tearing as their aura flared. Zhang Ping instantly triggered his analyze skill. Xiang snarled at the little girl to move if she didn't want to get hurt too. Zhang Ping was caught off guard when he spotted their flesh fortification skill, trading brains for brute strength. He questioned if that ability was even legit. He noticed Wang Jiemin's potential, off the charts. A late bloomer, sure, but a powerhouse in progress. Right now, though, she was just charging into trouble with that kind of strength. He handed her flyers back. He told her this was his fight to settle, but she argued they had 3 on their side, and he'd get wrecked alone. He brushed it off, asking if she didn't just show him the Ape King style, saying those guys were perfect practice material. Xiang Da taunted that he was one cocky punk. Zhang Ping fired off the first form on him. Then he launched the second form at Xiang. Liu Baoguo jumped in with his 5-fold lightning assault, but he went down hard when Zhang Ping hit him with the third form. Zhang Ping quipped that it was a shame. They seemed 2 fighters short and mocked how his 5-fold lightning kneels just turned into 3 kneels. He told them to scram, then turned to Wang Jiemin, saying she should take him to the Beast King Martial School to sign up. And when she asked if he was serious, he confirmed without hesitation. She marveled that he'd picked up the Ape King style after seeing it once and asked if he could help her out with moves she couldn't grasp later. And he agreed casually. She questioned if he meant it and called it awesome, saying with his help she'd power up fast. But he figured with her 7-star potential, she'd end up a high-level awakener anyway. Maybe even reach apex level, meaning he might be the one asking her for tips someday. At the Beast King Martial School, one of the students mentioned that someone had spotted the instructor at the marketplace, and the rest were floored that he had actually come back. One of them muttered a curse under his breath, griping that he figured Bai Day wouldn't show for a few more days, and snapped about what they were supposed to do since he hadn't even nailed half the moves in the Ape King style. The other snorted and teased that it was about time the slackers paid the price, while another barked at Earth to the lazy ones and urged that she better start moving fast. Zhang Ping wondered aloud why everyone was so terrified of Bai Day, and Wang Jiemin remarked that he had a nasty reputation for precision, and anyone who slipped up even slightly would get punished hard, then nudged her if she had ever gotten the treatment herself. She replied, it happened every other day since she had been stuck there for over a month and still couldn't manage the basic moves right, which made him scoff and mutter if that was something worth showing off. Everyone froze when Bai Day strode in, and Wang Jiemin hissed for Zhang Ping to straighten up right away. Bai Day commanded the group to focus and declared that anyone caught slouching would run 50 laps and not even think about cutting corners on their form, to which the students shouted in sync. Zhang Ping figured that Bai Day was a beast in human form, and at level 25 he nearly matched Liu Shishan's strength. Bai Day pointed at him and remarked if he was the kid who wrecked those Xingyi clowns recently, and he shot back with what would happen if he was. Bai Day grinned wide and declared that they'd soon find out what he was made of. Zhang Ping barked for him to hold up a second. He snapped that it was overkill and demanded what thrill there was in picking on a newbie like him. Bai Day countered why he heard that this so-called newbie mastered the Ape King style after watching just one lousy demo. Zhang Ping cursed under his breath since there wasn't even time to dodge. He stiffened when Bai Day simply patted him on the head. Baide chuckled and admitted he hadn't believed it either until right then, and remarked that Zhang Ping had some spark in him. Too bad the one who showed him the Ape King style had been a half-trained fool who messed up the footwork completely. But he shouldn't stress since Baide promised to drill the right technique into him personally later, and Zhang Ping expressed his thanks. The rest of the students went rigid as Baide announced that it was time to expose who had been slacking off in their training. They were to line up, each facing him in a spar, and anyone who didn't match his expectations would crank out 500 push-ups followed by a 10-mile run in weighted vests. Zhang Ping figured that was classic for an awakener with body enhancement ability. His version of training was flat-out brutal. Out of nowhere, Wang Jiemin elbowed him lightly, catching him off guard. He frowned in confusion and pressed her on what was going on. She muttered that Baide barely trained her at all and teasingly suggested he could give her some private lessons after proving how real training looked. He gave a lazy shrug and went along with it, telling her to meet him later at the Iron Soul blacksmith shop after class since he'd act as her sparring partner. And when she echoed the question like she couldn't believe it, she confessed she'd honestly expected him to shoot her down. Her ability, Diligent Will, practically wrecked her progress by slashing her learning rate to 10%. That skill seemed made to torture anyone trying to teach her, so he figured Baide's lack of patience made perfect sense. She beamed and said she was genuinely thrilled to get his help. A few days later, Zhang Ping caught that Wang Jiemin had botched the move again and told her to redo it, which she did with an embarrassed apology. It still wasn't right, so he told her to repeat it once more. He had broken the Ape King style into bite-sized drills, and pounding each motion into her muscle memory bit by bit actually seemed to work all right. Still, the Beast King fist really carried weight, because after grinding for days straight, he could feel his own level creeping upward. Out of the blue, Cho Chang yelled his name from afar and announced she was back. He recognized the voice, confirmed it was Cho Chang, and told Wang Jiemin to keep at her training while he went to see what was up. Moments later, Cho Chang mentioned it had been a narrow escape since, for whatever reason, hardly any wild or mutated beasts were left around there. They'd been forced to push deeper into the northern forest, and to make things worse, they stumbled on a whole pack of wolves. Storm wolves, every one of them. He checked if she'd made it out unscathed, and she assured him she was fine because they'd used her earth-burrowing shovel to duck underground, letting the wolves miss them and rip into a bunch of wild men instead. She took advantage of the chaos and snagged something valuable from the wolves, a wind gem, and tossed it to him to hold since that kind of find didn't happen often. He double-checked if it truly was a wind gem, and she smirked, commending his sharp eye, saying that little crystal could let even a stick-armed kid slice the air with wind blades and stir up mini tempests. He froze as a strange hum hit his ears, and ghostly whispers poured into his mind. One voice begged her big brother not to do it there, and to let go since it was broad daylight, promising she'd handle it instead. Another barked that it was the Fan family saber style's first form, chi-sweeping cross, urging everyone to follow. Another voice crooned about the birds above singing love songs through jade green hills. Then a celestial fox's hiss cut through, claiming Yue Ershi was dead, cursing the humans and snarling about devouring 2 of them that very day. The system chimed that his contract gem, level 4, had activated, Whisperer of Winds, granting him a passive skill that made him hear magnified thoughts from anyone within 10 miles caught in strong emotion, completely beyond his control. It was indeed a new power, much like the Fire Devourer before, so he guessed the contract gem just needed extra time to awaken. Suddenly, he caught a celestial fox's whisper muttering that there were 2 humans inside his shop, him and Wang Jiemin, and apparently he was the one who'd gotten them into that mess with Luo Xiu back in the dorms. They sounded ravenous, plotting their meal, one calling dibs on the boy while the other claimed Wang Jiemin. He stiffened instantly, realizing they might have just become prey. Lu Shishan was taking a shower, humming under her breath while steam curled around her like a lazy spirit. As soon as she stepped out, she spotted the warm jade pulsing with a weird ghostly glow that made her stomach twist. She muttered that it was bad news and that Zhang Ping had probably run headfirst into trouble again. It had been dragging on too long already, and Zhang Ping was starting to wonder where she'd vanished to since those celestial foxes were pacing like wolves, clearly ready to burst in any second. Cho Chang pressed if he was all right, and if anything had nailed him, while he figured that with 2 mid-tier celestial foxes lurking around, even with Lu Shishan's help, they were cooked. He remembered Cho Chang had just gotten back and hadn't caught up with Liu Tifeng yet, so he tossed out that she could go upstairs to chat while he'd hit the market to grab some stuff and throw together a meal. She rolled with it, but told him to move fast since it had been ages since she'd tasted his cooking, adding that she'd haul the wind gem along. He figured he should sneak Wang Jiemin out first so Cho Chang and Liu Tifeng wouldn't get dragged into the chaos, while Cho Chang reminded him not to dawdle. A bit later, in the blacksmith shop's backyard, Wang Jiemin nervously asked how her move looked and bragged she thought that she nailed it. He told her to shut it and stay glued to him, making her frown and press what his problem was. Out of nowhere, one of the celestial foxes barked at them, demanding where the two of them thought they were sneaking off to. They'd disguised themselves as Wang Jiemin's parents, and she instantly called out, asking what her mom and dad were doing there, but Zhang Ping warned her to back off. She waved him off, saying he should chill since it was literally her parents and everything was fine. The dad gave him a long look and asked who the jumpy kid beside her was, remarking that he looked like he'd seen a ghost. She explained that he was just a buddy from her martial school. Then the darkroom space snapped into existence, and while he figured the timing was dead on, Wang Jiemin froze wide-eyed and demanded what the heck that thing was. The celestial foxes growled that they were slipping away, and while she hollered for her parents, he barked that she shouldn't bother worrying about them. He barked another command, telling her to cling on with everything she had. He hissed a curse under his breath as the celestial foxes streaked closer like silver streaks in the dark. He flinched hard when pain ripped through his back from a sudden strike. Moments later, the dust thinned inside the eerie darkroom space. Wang Jiemin anxiously pressed if Zhang Ping was all right, and he muttered back that he was fine. She pushed for an explanation, but he warned her to stay clear because those were twisted, mutated beasts. The mom sneered that he could actually see through their disguise, which she admitted was impressive. The dad growled that all the more reason he shouldn't be allowed to live another second. Their speed shredded the air, leaving no gap to dodge, and Zhang Ping grasped that this was the terrifying gulf of power between them. Meanwhile, the mom crooned that Wang Jiemin was her darling girl, and Zhang Ping caught on that the creature was zeroing in on her. As she froze in disbelief, he spat another curse, his grip slipping under the strain. Suddenly, Lu Shishan's voice sliced through the chaos, ordering him to get out of the way. She unleashed a surge of ice that tore through the celestial foxes in a furious storm of frost. She lunged in for the final strike, but Wang Jiemin cried out in protest. She darted forward with her sword, slashing wildly in a blur of desperate motion. She demanded if they were both still breathing, and Wang Jiemin wailed no. She screamed, demanding why she'd killed her parents, and Zhang Ping snapped back that those creatures weren't her parents. They were celestial foxes parading around in their stolen skins. She shouted that he was lying and that it couldn't be true because they looked exactly like her mom and dad. He shot back, pressing why they never showed their real faces, and she rushed out. That evidence pointed to a king-level celestial fox hidden inside the city whose power boosted its pack's illusions, making it so even a weak fox within the walls could fool a high-tier awakener, and that the ones they'd killed before had only dropped the disguise once they were outside. He caught on instantly to what that implied, that he might be the only one who could cut through their illusions. He called out to Wang Jiemin, declaring those monsters had slaughtered her parents and stolen their faces. She remembered their warm, gentle smiles that felt so real. He swore again that it was the truth. She refused and demanded how.